All right. So, Sue Elliott and Dolores Garcia back with you to talk about forbidden grief. Dolores has been in this stage of grief that is just going on, right? Do you want to tell people how you're feeling and what's going on there?
Yeah. Well, we are coming up on the 3-month anniversary of the double homicide that my family experienced, and just to make sure everybody is understanding why we're here and what the story is. At the beginning of July of 2022. My 24-year-old son went into his father's room, who Hector and I have been divorced for about 5 or 6 years. And so the boys were living on their own and in their own house. And Miguel went into Hector's room and fatally wounded him with a kitchen knife. And then we would suppose that he just immediately left the house, and he ended up breaking into a neighbor's house and was terrorizing them with a bloody kitchen knife, and his hands were all bloody. And the husband of the home was able to retrieve his own handgun and fatally wounded Miguel. And so on the 4th of July, I lost both my son and my former husband. And so 3 months out of that, this is where I am as far as my grief is concerned, and my journey in this new life that I've been placed in, and also my daughter. So this weekend, I noticed a very pervasive loneliness and aloneness, and it was it was a little difficult to survive and feel it, but I really did. I sat in it, and I was like, wow, this is just like, I don't know what to do with this. And what it felt like, Sue, was that I am still in the event and navigating through that, and everybody else is getting on with life. And so it's almost kind of, this vision just flashed in my mind. It's kind of like you've had a big celebration or gathering at your house, and then everybody leaves and you're all by yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. And everybody's gone back to normal. Not that there really is such a thing as normal, but your life has changed forever. And everybody else is kind of going back about their business. And we were talking the other day about how, some people's lives have been changed by this. Some more than others, but yours certainly among the most. Yours and Alejandra's the most, really.
Right.
So how does it feel to have, people aren't checking in with you regularly anymore? The condolence cards and texts aren't coming anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Does it feel like you've been left behind?
It feels like I'm lost. Like I don't even know what to talk about anymore. Like, all I want to talk about and all I seem to talk about is this grief and the event and Miguel and even Hector. And I look at pictures and, like, I'm not here now. I'm like back there. And it was so interesting because for the 2 or 3 weeks I can remember that I was in southern New Mexico with my daughter at the time of the event, or after the event, I was staying with a friend of mine, an older lady, and she was sharing with me that, I mean, she's well into her 80s, and she was saying, well, death is just part of my life now because, so and so's husband passed away 2 weeks ago, and this person just got out of the hospital. And, and what we kind of think about old age is about. And she goes, and, this week, that's all old news, and you just go on. And I kind of, I don't know what my face said to her, but my mind was like, well, yeah, I don't know that I'm just going to get on with life. Like maybe you guys will, because you're on the periphery, but like, I don't, I don't even know what my life is about anymore.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure that everybody who's lost somebody really close to them understands this,
Mhm.
right? Like it's definitely different when it's a double homicide or a homicide and assisted suicide or whatever, however you want to characterize this. But somebody who's lost a significant other or a spouse or a parent they were close to or a child, anybody, even, not even a best friend, like there is a palpable loss. There's a hole in your life. There is somebody you used to be able to hug and touch who's not there anymore.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure that grief ever goes away. In fact, my sense is that it never goes away, but that there are different levels to it, different aspects to it, different nuances. Do you want to share how, if the grief feels any different now than it did 2 or 3 months ago?
Um, yeah, there's some similarities and there's some differences, but you know what I keep tripping over is really what is grief? Like, I know that I've asked you that before, but like, just talk to me about that. I just am like, what is this? Like, it's almost like everything, but nothing. Like, what is grief?
So tell me what your experience is of it, and then we'll explore more.
Um, you know what it feels like is cognitive dissonance. Is that like it's confusion? That's what grief feels like to me. If I'm really trying to explain it, is that part of me says that I've lost my husband and my son, and
And
how
that's
about
a phrase that we use all the time, like lost loved ones, I've lost this
yes,
person. And
yeah,
that's a really strong characterization, as if they no longer exist.
yes,
And we know
yeah,
that they're here, they're just not physical. They're not in
yeah,
that physical form anymore, but non-physical is right here.
yes.
Go on.
Yes. So that's where the dissonance is that like everything opposes everything. That's why I'm like, I don't even know what grief is, because what isn't it?
So that's a really interesting question. And one of the things that the angels have shared several times about grief is that it's really, really painful when we feel like we can't love somebody anymore. And when we use that terminology, like we've lost this person, they're lost to me, then I can't flow my love toward them. And when I try to not flow my love toward them, then it almost like it bottles up and it's pressure and it feels awful. It's a backed up system.
Mhm.
So it makes a lot of sense that you're looking at pictures and that you're really connecting with Hector and Miguel at this point, because that's an easy way to flow the love. So it's, as people go through the grieving process, it's a normal thing to want to go back and reflect over your experiences with that person in life, look at pictures, remember special memories, maybe torture yourself with memories that are not so great to remember also, but it's a way to keep connecting with and flowing love toward that person. How does that feel in your space?
It answers a lot, because part of it is part of the grief that I felt is like, what do I do? Like it really is an emotion of am I coming or going? Like it's confusion. It's a very chaotic experience to me. And I mean, that's what I've been feeling, but I haven't been able to articulate it because I like, like it's everything, like all jumbled together. And so you're looking in the past. You don't know where the future is, and you certainly don't feel like you're present. I mean, it's an emotion of, I think I'm lost. I didn't lose Hector and Miguel. I'm the one that's lost. That's where the the confusion and the chaos is that, like, I'm the one that's lost. I'm lost.
Wow.
I'm very confused. Yeah.
So many goosebumps. So the angels are saying that's absolutely the experience. It's not that Hector's lost or Miguel is lost. I mean, you know where they are. You've been in contact with them where they are. They're physically lost to you, but you're lost in the midst of how do I do life now?
Yeah.
Which is totally understandable and very interesting because we've been taking this event and the trauma and the pain and the grief of this event and funneling it into the Forbidden Grief program. So does that feel, do you feel less lost having that as something to focus on? Or is it hard to focus right now?
Well, it is hard to focus. And, but the forbidden grief and the time and energy that you and I have invested in it has been, it has been a lifeline because it allows me to talk about it. And, that's another thing about, the loneliness and the isolation is that you only want to talk about it, but you don't really want to hear other people, their opinions about it. You just want to ruminate. You just want to rehearse it over and over again. And, you and I were talking yesterday about, I just really feel I have an insatiable desire to keep figuring it out. And that's part of the confusion and the lostness is that, like, I'm still trying to make sense of it. I'm still trying to understand it. I'm still trying to answer all the unanswerable questions. Yeah.
Right. And I'm sure that's the experience of so many people who are going through loss and grief.
Yeah.
That it doesn't make sense. Even when it's the end of someone's life, even when they've lived 90, 95, 100 years, it's still hard to make sense of. And in this case, it's a lot harder. And that spinning in the question. So one thing we've talked about so many times is the power of questions. And you have a superpower of questioning, asking powerful questions. And yet the questions that spin and the conversations that go around in circles in our mind, like we know those aren't empowering because we know by the way we feel that we're not feeling empowered. Right. So tell me what the questions are that feel disempowering, and maybe we can find some questions that feel more empowering.
Okay. Well, what am I supposed to do now? And so, yeah, you have taught me this a long time ago, is that it's the supposed tos and the shoulds. And it doesn't, that's the very nature of those kind of questions. And it doesn't matter that I'm asking it about the event. It's just generally not a very beneficial question. What am I supposed to do now?
And let's take a moment because we've talked about this a lot, but let's share with other people. So, should and supposed to are almost impossible for us to figure out because they're about what other people think we should do or we're supposed to do. And those other people, like they're not consistent. These people say this and those people say that. And then the same person changes their mind and they say different things. And so trying to figure out what we should do or what we're supposed to do is almost impossible. And even if it were possible, because things have been codified and put down as rules or laws or commandments, um, even so, they're about what other people say. They're externalizing authority. And really, we're moving into this time where more and more it's paramount that we live from internal compass, internal direction, internal guidance, because our internal guidance is our connection with the divine. Those other people have their own connection with the divine, and they may very generously and compassionately be sharing what their connection with the divine says, but it still may not be the right message for anybody else. So if we were to do what we've talked about before with should and supposed to, when you take that word should out of a sentence and exchange it for really want to. So, I should call my mother versus I really want to call my mother. We can absolutely feel whether that's a yes or no in the moment. Do I really want to call my mother or not? So if you play with the sentences that are running around in circles, what should I do now? What do I really want to do now? Do you have a sense of that? And now, so the angels really want to pause right here because you mentioned past, present, and future and how it feels like you're lost in the past or stuck sort of circling around in the past, which can feel like running around in circles until you fall down, right? It's got that energy of confusion for sure and that energy of not making progress, right? The stuckness. Focusing on the future is not a lot different from that because the future is unknowable. And because the future is to some degree a lie, there's only now. And now it's now. And 5 minutes from now, it's still going to be now. It's just going to be that now. So, and it's all this one long, continuous moment. So the angels are saying very clearly, like the most powerful thing you can do is come back to the moment over and over again. And that's always true. So, and coming back to the moment doesn't have to be a big fancy practice, right? It can be closing your eyes and taking 3 deep breaths. Very grounding, very centering, very soothing to a nervous system that's overtaxed. How many of us are on hyper alert for so many reasons? Work stress, environmental stress, EMFs, too much electronic noise in our space. Like so many things are stressful for our nervous system. So closing your eyes and taking 3 deep breaths tells your body that it can get out of that fight or flight. When you're really fleeing from the saber-toothed tiger, you can't close your eyes and take 3 deep breaths. So it's an instant sign to your physical system to stand down. It's a false alarm. I'm also doing what's called havening right now. So havening is this very powerful practice that comes from brain science and psychotherapy. And it's another really powerful reset for the nervous system. So you're stroking in one direction from your shoulders to your elbows, or I like to even continue down all the way to my wrists. You can do it with the palms of your hands. You can do it on your face or your cheeks, wherever it feels soothing to you. It really comforts your inner child. It's your inner nurturer soothing your inner child and saying everything's going to be okay, sweetheart. I love you. How are you, beautiful? Keep doing it.
Yeah, I feel better, but my inner child she's so lost.
What's she experiencing?
like she feels like she got forgotten and she got abandoned, she got left behind. And she's really scared
So
because
what
she
is
doesn't know what she's supposed to do.
yeah. So what would you like to tell her?
Well, I would like to tell her that she's not forgotten and she's not alone. And
You want to talk directly to her?
uh, she's just really deep in it. Like, she doesn't even, like, she doesn't want to hear it.
Well, when any of us are really sad, the last thing we want to hear sometimes, or really angry or really frustrated, is everything's going to be okay, right? That's just kind of annoying.
Yeah, I like, she's a nice little girl, but she just wants to say fuck off. Like everybody left, and it's not fair. And yeah.
Yeah. What
Like
else let her speak. What else does she have to say?
like I can't do this by myself. And like yeah, I'm kind of angry at Miguel and Hector for leaving, and for everybody else leaving. And like good, like Hector used to have this saying, well, good for you and your father. And it was just a joke between us, and it was so sarcastic. And it was, and I can hear him. I'm just like, good for you and your father. Like good, like fuck you, like good for you. And everybody, like, good for you, go back to your stupid lives. And that's another thing I've noticed is, like, Sue, I mean, we're being raw and real. Like, I don't want to listen to people complain about their hangnail. And that's kind of like why I've isolated myself, is because that's a first world problem that you got going on there, that your BMW got a scratch on it. Like, I don't care. Like, I don't care. And so, yeah, like, can you feel all of this confusion? And
can you feel the priority readjustment that you're getting from this?
yeah,
Not that your priorities were all messed up, right? But there's that country song, I hope you get to live like you were dying,
yeah,
right? Because when we think we're about to die, or when we just suffered a really big loss like you did, it really puts everything in a different focus. We're looking through a different lens, and all of a sudden the scratch on the BMW is big, hairy deal. And as somebody who was a car magazine editor and a hardcore car guy, like, I get it. Like, I would be so upset if my new BMW got a scratch on it, and nobody died here.
yeah,
This is not the end of the world. This can be fixed. It's just a thing. It
yeah.
may be a thing that I love. It may be a thing that has a lot of symbolic meaning to me. But yeah, I hear you. And it becomes harder to have regular conversations when you're in this irregular place, right? Like, you've been pulled out of regular day-to-day life. You're in a very different space right now. And there's a blessing to being in that different space.
Mhm.
Do you want to talk about that?
Um, it, I mean, I mean, it's the master teacher right now, is that really what is important, and like why am I here? Why am I incarnate right now? What is the purpose? What is the benefit? What is the gift? What is the blessing have gone going through this? And how am I evolving and expanding because of this? And so part of me isolating is because I don't have very much patience for people's petty complaints. But I don't want, I mean, they are where they are, and I don't want to share that negative energy with them. And so it is just easier to like back off, and who cares if somebody didn't do the goddamn dishes? Like, just do them. Like, what does it really matter? And
And that is a really powerful gift to carry forward with us, right? The things that we get so tweaked about in day-to-day relationship with people. When that person is gone, like that is not an important thing, that they left crumbs on the counter every day, or that they didn't do the dishes, or that they loaded the dishwasher wrong, or all the things that we get all bent out of shape in day-to-day life with other people over. That they leave the toilet seat up, they squeeze the toothpaste wrong, they make that funny noise when they're eating.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And maybe we could just love them anyway because it's not important.
yeah, yeah. So it's I don't know.
So let's go back to finding the gift in what's happened, because my
Okay.
sense is that we get stuck anywhere along the journey. Maybe we're still able to go through the motions and look like we're living life and look like we're doing work and being successful, but anything that we haven't really found the gems from, we still get stuck there on an energetic and emotional level. So let's talk about what gems you found so far in this inconceivable experience.
Uh, the biggest one, and maybe this is the only one, maybe there is only one, is that my son killed his father and then terrorized the neighbors. And I still love him.
Yeah.
And so, and I'm hearing this kind of ring in my head, is that people's actions and the conditions that I experience them with, being able to step back and just say, you are walking divinity. You are doing the best that you can do. I don't know anything. I don't know anything from anything. And I can still appreciate your divine nature, no matter how you're presenting to me. Like the librarian here, she gave me a hard time. And I just was looking at her, and I was like, oh, you're just a little Miss Sunshine. and now that I'm going through this process right now, I'm just like, yeah, I don't know anything about her. I don't, maybe her dog got ran over this morning. I don't know. Or maybe, I don't know. And maybe she doesn't know that it's safe to be happy and kind and smile at people. I don't know that. But she is no less divine than I am. And I'm little Miss Sunshine sometimes, okay, a lot of times. And I'm sure people say that about me. I'm like, wow, what's her problem? And so what really matters, I guess that's the gift.
Yeah.
What really matters.
And what you were just describing is unconditional love and extending grace to people.
Yeah.
Right. Or, as in the words of Don Miguel Ruiz, who wrote the Four Agreements, the second agreement is don't take anything personally, right? Because the librarian may have had a really bad morning and she may be cranky because her dog died, or she had a huge fight with her beloved, or something traumatic happened. Her boss yelled at her 5 minutes before you walked in.
Mm-hmm.
If we cannot take those things personally and give other people grace and recognize the divinity in them, the true namaste, right? The divine in me sees and recognizes and appreciates the divine in you. And I see and recognize and appreciate the divine in myself. That's been a big part of your path, the path of unconditional love more and more. And of course, it's part of the path that the angels are all about bringing to everyone here right now on the planet. And as you deepen into this, it's been a blossoming or a deepening, broadening, all of that into more and more unconditional love. And being asked to be unconditional love for Miguel, right? To know that sweet, innocent little boy, to know what his journey was through this lifetime, to know how it ended, to know that a lot of people have a lot of judgment around how it ended and a lot of discomfort, and to love him as a unique aspect of the divine.
Mm-hmm. What is this whole thing about conditional love? Isn't that like the biggest oxymoron that there is? If it's true love, it's unconditional. If it's truly love, it's unconditional. Is that a truth?
That is a truth. So the way most humans do love is obsession, manipulation, addiction, and control. So depending on the flavor of love, right? Romantic love is more obsession, addiction, manipulation, and trying to control. Guilting and shaming. You don't bring me flowers anymore. Um, and then parental love, there's a whole lot of that control. And not saying that people do this out of cruelty, right? We're trying to prepare a child for the world that we live in. We're trying to prepare a child to be able to succeed in school, right? Where you have to sit down and you have to be quiet. We're trying to have our children be, let's say, well behaved when we go out in a restaurant or we go to church or we go to wherever it is that we go, the movie theater. You don't want them to get up and run around and scream at the top of their lungs. And so we feel a lot of pressure to reward and punish is the way that most people exert their control, right?
Mm-hmm.
Even if we don't believe in punishment, still reward is the same spectrum, the same continuum. So we give you love, we give you hugs, we give you praise, we give you approval and validation when you do things the way we want you to do them, when you do the things we want you to do, when you behave in a certain way, and we withhold that, which is punishment, when you don't.
Yeah. Yeah.
But how do you be unconditional love with a child who challenges you, who's running around screaming like a banshee in the middle of the restaurant, or in the middle of Walmart, or in the middle of their classroom?
Mm-hmm.
Any suggestions for the parents who have challenging children?
Well, I'm checking in with myself is that I did not have an attitude of love and respect. And then I acted on that attitude. So I had an attitude of, irritation, embarrassment, resentment. I mean, we're talking truth here, aren't we? Is that I'm like disgust, like irritated, like bothered. And so like that would be my first step, is check in with how you're feeling about that child before you do anything. And that would be like a total game changer, is that control. Like, I'm going to make you obey the rules. I'm going to exert power over you so that I can prove that I'm a good parent, because that's what good parents do. Yeah. So
Yeah. And so much of that is societal conditioning and the belief, not an unfounded belief, right? We see it all the time, that we're considered responsible for our children and how they behave. And they're either a good reflection on us or a poor reflection on us.
yes.
Yeah. So pulling all that out of people's spaces.
And if that is the absolute truth, then I am the worst mother ever to walk this earth, because my son did what he did. And gosh, that doesn't feel very good. So I interrupted your clearing. Please, let's
No.
hold some of this out.
But I'm so glad you went there, because, it's easy to buy into when, your child's got an A and you're like, yes, I'm a great parent. And it's easy to buy into when your child graduates from college or gets a good job or whatever. We feel proud and we want to take on some of that as our own measure of success and validation. But when they do something negative, then we get the other end of the stick, which is the guilt and the shame. And so the angels really want to help to disconnect everybody across the board from any responsibility for anyone else's behavior other than your own. There is only one being on this planet who you have any semblance of control over, and that is yourself. Which is not to say don't help when people are in need and asking for your help. Don't love everyone. Love everyone. Do love everyone. Do feel into whether it's yours to do when someone is asking for help. Just because they're asking you doesn't mean that it's your job either. There's always nuance to it, and there's always feeling into the divine connection. So the first thing the angels want to do is uncreate, delete, dissolve, and dissipate all of the programs that would have you feeling duty, obligation, responsibility, guilt, shame based on anyone else's behavior. And they literally want to say, even if you told them to do it. How many times have parents said, if all your friends jumped off a cliff, would you jump off a cliff too? Right? Like, even if all your friends told you to do that, or even if you told them to do that, and then they did something and they got in trouble, they still had free will. They still had choice. Very few of you have that much power over anyone. I'm sorry to tell you. There you go. Giving you the grace to let yourself off the hook, and giving you the blessing, the angel blessing and encouragement to love yourself and everyone else no matter what. It's really that simple. One of my favorite quotes from Martin Luther King Jr. said, hate does not bring an end to hate. Only love can do that. Darkness does not bring an end to darkness. Only light can do that. As we bring the light, bring the love with a capital L, it changes everything. And when I was a kid, they talked about positive strokes and negative strokes. It was like something that the psychologists were talking about when I was in elementary school. And so the kids who weren't getting enough positive strokes, affirmation, hugs, showing of love, telling that they're doing a great job, would get attention by getting negative strokes. They would act out. So much of the time, Well, all of the time, all we're really doing is showing people our woundedness, showing people our sore spots, and asking for love. A Course in Miracles talks about how everything is either coming from fear or coming from love. And if it's coming from fear, all it is a cry for love. So if we can hold it in that space, it's so much easier to be love. If we can look at the librarian being cranky or your son screaming in a public place as a cry for love, it's easier to respond from love. And we wanted to come back to the other thing you said that's one of the most powerful things that anyone can do ever, which is notice how you're feeling first and then take action. So if you're feeling frustrated, if you're feeling angry, if you're feeling resentful, take a moment or 5 days, whatever it takes, and come into closer alignment with the truth of who you are, and then take action. So that was the best parenting advice we've ever heard. The angels are saying that is it. Notice how you're feeling. Because how many parents have said, I love you. And it sounds like, I'm really mad at you. And kids get that. They get the disconnect between your words and your emotions, or your words and your energy. So tend to your energy first, and then speak, then act. And that's so many times hug is the answer, or leaving somebody just to sort out what's going on is the answer, or helping smaller children understand what they're feeling, name their emotions, and learn what they can do with them besides having the tantrum in Walmart. Um, these are the gifts that we can give. And we get it that not every child is easy. Not every child responds to being hugged. Not every child responds to calm and logic, or what works for me doesn't necessarily work for anyone else. But I'm likely to try what works for me first because that's what I know.
Yeah. And what a game changer. And maybe I'll do better with my grandkids. I don't know. Or when I incarnate again and I have 20 kids, I don't know. But it's, there's a message behind every behavior. And it's either a message I feel loved, or I feel fear and I want to be loved. And instead of, because Miguel was diagnosed when he was 6 years old of being oppositional defiant. And so I interpreted it as the message behind every behavior is, I'm going to prove you wrong, and you can't make me. And it was a challenge. I mean, he threw his hat in the center of the ring like it was a challenge. He's like, go ahead and try to make me. And that's how I interpreted his behavior. And gosh, if I had do-overs, or I have do-overs with everybody that I interact with, whether it's my kid or not, is it, how am I interpreting their behavior? Is it a love behavior, or is it a call to love behavior? Yeah.
And what a gift this is
Yeah.
of the event, right? To recognize that you have the opportunity every single day in the now.
Yeah.
Do it differently.
Yeah.
And just to say to everybody who's tuning into this, that you did it differently, as you knew differently throughout the course of Miguel's life.
Yeah.
That the way you showed up as a mom changed as you changed, as you grew, as you evolved, as you learned. You showed up differently every single day as you were becoming more. And some days were good days, and some days were bad hair days. And we all have grace around that too.
Yeah. Well, something that, and maybe we'll just end on this note, that something just came to me is that, that I have spent a lot of time and energy with the regrets and the shoulda, coulda, wouldas, and feeling completely unable to have do-overs. But you have shown me that I have do-overs with every single person I interact with. Now, does it happen to be my son in his physical body? No, it doesn't. But it is the gift that I'm carrying forward of, little Miss Sunshine Librarian. She's calling for love. And it doesn't mean that I'm going to go hug her, because I don't think that would go over very well. I don't think that's her love language, but I can hold the love in my heart. Like, I have to walk past her desk when I leave today, and I might smile at her. I might just radiate love. I might just send her some light. But it's all within me. It's my experience.
Yes. So this is such a great place to close with, because you used the word just, but we want to pull the word just out of that sentence, because the most powerful thing you can do is be love. And what you just described was being love, walking around, activating, generating, and radiating love. And so you can be that toward the librarian as an excuse to flow love. You can be that toward Miguel as an excuse to flow love. You can be that toward the person who cuts you off in traffic, right? You can be that. And in oneness, those are all Miguel. We are all one being.
Yeah.
Oh, such a wave of goosebumps from the angels.
Yeah. Thank you.
So
go ahead.
How do you feel now in terms of grief? Does that?
Very hopeful, because it's what are the opportunities? Because it felt like I didn't have any opportunities. Like, well, you messed that one up. Like, there's no do-overs. But it's the continuation of life. Is that gosh, I learned a lot. Gosh, I experienced a lot. How would I enjoy it differently? And that's where I can, as you say, flow that love, and I can still experience that love. And because I learned it through this experience with Miguel, it flows to him, because I honor him with that.
Yeah, what a beautiful intention.
So much. Yeah.
Yeah. I love you so much.
I love you. Thank you, Sue. Thank you, angels.
Bye, everybody, for now.
Bye.